Hello and welcome to this video that is designed to support your engagement with topic 1, particularly around one of the core readings for this particular topic in Marsh's Becoming a Teacher, chapter 1, which is quite a brief chapter, but I think covers a lot of ground and is a very good introduction for you to begin engaging with this idea: what is teaching in the 21st century? What does it mean? What do people say about what teaching is? And there's a range of ideas presented in this chapter. And then as well, thinking about for yourself, what do you understand teaching to be? What kind of expectations do you bring already with you right at the beginning of this unit and the Masters of Teaching? And then how do those two work together? Meaning, how will your own internal ideas about what a teacher is currently, what you think that is, what the work of teachers is, what the priorities are, what shapes being a teacher in the here and now, how that will shift and change as you are exposed to all of the readings, the text, the videos for this topic and ongoing, obviously. So let's have a look at this particular chapter, and I'm just going to talk through my own thinking and ideas in regards to the reading. So obviously, if you're going to be watching this video, you'll have needed to have read chapter 1, which, as I said, it's only a few pages, so it doesn't take long at all. So what is teaching all about? I really like how the authors begin their first chapter of the book with a really interesting statement that I very much agree with. Teaching is a very complex, ambiguous, and paradoxical profession. I think that could not be more accurate a statement, and rolled up in all of that is obviously a lot of different ideas about why. Why would teaching be complex, ambiguous, and paradoxical? So let's kind of look at how the authors address that, and as well then I'll put in my own particular views of that statement and why it's so accurate. They also state in that first paragraph that teaching is a political act, and that very much aligns with my own thinking about the modern teaching context. In fact, a large proportion of my thesis will be addressing why I consider teaching to be such a political act in the 21st century, and for my own research, how that affects the emotional dimensions of being a teacher. You can't separate politics in the past, in history, the political parties we've had in Australia here, their particular policies, their agenda, their way of funding education, their priorities around school education at all levels. You can't separate the history of that and obviously the current moment, political moment, with what happens in schools and how teachers do the work of teaching and learning. You can't separate them, they're entwined. So you must always consider the political if you're going to be talking about what teachers do, what teaching is all about. It's so critical. And that applies to all levels of schooling, not just the public system. It applies to the private system as well, of course. I like how they reference Britsman here, notes that teachers bring to their work their own idiomatic school biography and the conflicted history of their own deep investments in and ambivalence about what a teacher is and does. So this gets to this notion that I outlined just before about how you are bringing your own particular views about what a teacher is, the kinds of schooling history that you have had, perhaps even that if you have children, that your children have had thus far, that will certainly shape your understanding of what teachers do, and how you think about teachers. Do you respect them for the work? You understand that it's very hard work, or do you think that teachers, maybe you've had teachers in the past that have been slack, lazy, an ineffective teacher, and you think, oh, I could do better than that. I know I can do better than that. And some people are motivated by that. But all of these investments that you bring, whether they be about thinking carefully what teachers do and acknowledging the hard work that they do, or maybe having some misconceptions as well about the work of teaching. In the Australian community, there's a pervasive attitude that a lot of teachers may not necessarily work that hard. They get a lot of school holidays. One of the first things that, if you ask the average layperson, I'd imagine, about teachers, they say, oh, they've got great holidays, 12 weeks holidays, sure. As soon as you begin teaching, you learn that it's certainly not 12 weeks holiday. But in any regard, so I really like how, from the very beginning, the authors here, Clark and Pittaway, are encouraging you to consider and work out your own particular viewpoints about what a teacher does. And then moving on, this idea of the ideal teacher is in some people's minds, and I guess I was just talking about that in a lot of regards, that you think, well, if I would like to be an ideal teacher, what is it that I would do? Would it be better than maybe some of the teachers that you had in the past? Would it be mirroring some of the teachers that you know or have had in the past? And this notion of, what is the ideal? And I think it's a loaded question. You could ask, what is the ideal engineer? What is the ideal architect? What is the ideal doctor? Each profession may have its own particular set of criteria around an ideal professional doing good work. I think teachers, though, have a particularly